And if this is your first time giving your mind a little love, I have a few goodies for you. First, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And second, sign up for the Morning Mind Love. Think of it like a weekday oracle from your highest self to help you start each day with a positive focus. Plus, you'll get 2 gifts absolutely free: a 30-minute binaural meditation and 30 days of journaling prompts to help you remember who you truly are. So join over 9,000 people and go to mindlove.com to sign up. Welcome to Mind Love, episode 291. Today's episode is all about 7 quantum tools to elevate your mind and create your reality.
So this is one of the most powerful things that any of us can do, because our subconscious mind takes on the stories that we've been told. So as a child, we don't have control over what we've been told. We don't have a say in the thoughts we start thinking, because they're very well-meaning adults telling us things like be realistic, or shut up and sit down, or you don't get to have a say in that, or whatever it is. But there's no, again, very well-meaning adults. And so we pick up these programs along the way that aren't true. And in order to reprogram and rewire our subconscious and our conscious mind, we have to understand how to operate the vehicle. I talk about this a lot. So most people in personal development, they read one book, they go on one retreat, they barely do anything, and then they say it's not working. But the truth of the matter is, it's just like everything else. You've got to make a lifestyle around it.
Turn up your frequency with Mind Love. Bite-sized brain hacks for seekers, dreamers, and doers. It's time to give your mind a little love with your host, Melissa Monti.
If this is your first time giving your mind a little love, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Mind love is a habit, and the more you give your mind that love and intention, the better you'll feel about yourself and your life. Plus, it's really a win-win, because more subscribers means Mind Love attracts even more amazing guests to bring you their wisdom. So don't forget to subscribe. Have you ever experienced magic? Like a synchronicity just too coincidental to happen without a reason? Or maybe instant karma, where the universe matches your energy so fast, it almost feels like a cosmic joke. I feel like these things happen to me most often when I'm on either side of the energy spectrum. So either my vibes are intensely high and the universe rewards me, or I'm epically low, doubting everything I believe, and I'm shown that it's all a reflection of my mindset. So maybe I wake up in a terrible mood, hating everything and everyone, and then I'm hit with an obstacle every step of my day. Like I stub my toe in the bathroom, I drop my toothbrush in the toilet, a delivery truck is blocking in my car, and then I get stuck behind the slowest person ever to drive a vehicle. Or I choose to trust in something greater than myself, and opportunities just seem to blossom with my every move. I wouldn't say this is the best example of my life, but it's the one that's coming to mind. So one time when my husband and I had first met, we were youngins on a pretty tight budget, and we decided to go to a foosball tournament in Vegas. And yeah, that's right, I have hidden foos shark talents. Well, we were walking on the strip, looking at all the menus, thinking about how expensive everything was, and we were getting stressed out to where we were picking little arguments with each other. Well, I remember we finally started laughing about something, and we looked at each other and said, let's just manifest free food. Literally those words, and I do not know what we had in mind. But a few minutes later, this extremely short couple started chatting with us and invited us to their table. Well, they ended up buying us dinner and then proceeded to take us gambling, handing us hundreds of dollars the whole night. I actually even lost my phone that night and had it graciously returned, which has never happened to me in Vegas, and believe me, I have lost a lot of phones in my party days. Well, everything just lined up perfectly the entire weekend, and we truly believed that it was because we chose gratitude over stress. And yeah, sometimes that was easier to do in my 20s, when I only had myself to take care of. Especially because now it seems like we're always fighting against time. We get stuck in this mindset that there's not enough time to do the things that light us up, whilst building our businesses and making sure our children's lives are wonderful. But what our family has noticed is that when we do make sure that our vibes are high, so to speak, our external experience always seems to match it. One example that's just undeniable at this point is with my husband. His favorite thing in the world to do is snowboard, but he also has to run a business, so there's not always time. But when he does make sure that he prioritizes that, regardless of what else is going on, he will usually get a big payment just as he gets on the chairlift. And I always get that text message that's like, see, I knew I needed to do this. Another time, I had a lot going on and did not think I could squeeze in a trip to visit my family, but last minute decided that it was a priority. And on the drive up, I got an email inviting me to something that was a huge opportunity. And maybe these examples seem trivial or even silly, until you start to understand energetics. Nikola Tesla said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Well, one of my goals for this podcast has always been bridging the gap between science and spirituality. And while the law of attraction gets a lot of criticism, it's hard to deny its links with quantum physics. It's also interesting how many of the most successful people in the world seem to live by a certain set of laws. So maybe they have the secrets or the tools that the rest of us are seeking. And maybe these tools aren't as complicated as our ego minds make them out to be. So today we're talking about 7 quantum tools to raise our energy, and in doing so, will help us manifest the lives that we were always meant to live. Our guest is Suzanne Adams. She's a successful thought leader in the field of personal development, energetics, and leadership. She's walked through her own powerful awakening and now considers herself a manifesting genius. She's also the author of Quantum Vibes, 7 tools to help you raise your energy, harness your power, and manifest a life that will blow your mind. 3 key things we will learn today is all about the Hawkin's map of consciousness, how to turn your triggers into a powerful way to manifest possibilities, and how to practice aligning with happiness and worthiness. I used to be one of those people who had grand plans for a big healthy meal every Sunday night, and I'd make these elaborate meal plans, buy all the ingredients, and then Wednesday would roll around and I'd be staring at that wilted spinach, ordering takeout again. Shopping, planning, and cooking food really can be simple and stress-free, and that's why I love Hungry Root. Hungry Root takes stress out of mealtime by filling your cart with personalized picks and planning your week of meals, getting smarter with every order. With over 15,000 recipes to choose from each week, many ready in just 15 minutes or less, it's so perfect for those nights when you have no energy left. What I love most is their smart cart technology. It actually learns what I like and what I will actually cook. So no more buying ingredients for recipes that I'll never make. Everything that shows up, I actually use. They screen out over 200 additives, including high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners, only high quality meat and seafood with no hormones or antibiotics, and they carry brands like Vital Farms and Ithaca Hummus that I already trust. The time I've gotten back has been incredible. Instead of spending Sunday meal planning, I'm doing things that actually matter to me. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/mindlove and use code MINDLOVE. That's hungryroot.com/mindlove, code MINDLOVE, to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/mindlove, code MINDLOVE.
Throw the best birthday party ever that your child will always talk about. Big Air Trampoline Park inside Fieldhouse USA at the Polaris Mall can do just that. Award-winning birthday party packages start at just $300, and all birthday parties include pizza, drinks, a party room with a party host, grip socks, printed invitations, and all 40 attractions at Big Air Trampoline Park. It's a birthday party you and your kids will never forget. Book your party today. Big Air Columbus, where the fun never ends. Visit BigAirUSA.com/Columbus for details.
And now let's welcome Suzanne Adams to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Excited to dive right in.
So what led to your quantum moment, as you call it? And how did you eventually find your purpose with sharing these quantum tools?
So a quantum moment, for, most people don't know what that is because it's a term that I created. And a quantum moment means a moment in time where it's almost like everything stops and you see something from a different perspective that you've never seen it before. And it's like that line in the sand where there was before this happened and then after this thing happened. And it's like it's like a moment that changes everything for you. And I think many of us have quantum moments, some more magnificent and spectacular than others. And for me, one of my most powerful quantum moments was in 2013. And I was living a life that felt very superficial, meaning there wasn't a lot of depth in meaning and purpose. It was more like I was just checking boxes, searching for fulfillment, really kind of living this unconscious human life. And I got to a space and place where nothing was really working out the way that I had wanted it to. And I was depressed. But in the moment, I didn't know I was depressed. In hindsight, I can crystal clear see I was depressed. And I chose a numbing mechanism because all of these feelings that had been bubbling up in my body began to come to the surface, and I didn't want to feel them. And in the past, I had been busy being busy. I was searching through career achievements, through romantic relationships, through nightclubs, through anything that just would mean I wouldn't have to feel what was up for me. And I wasn't doing this consciously. It was very unconscious. And so in 2013, in this time and space, I had spiraled into a depression. All of these feelings began bubbling up, and I didn't want to feel them. And so I chose a coping mechanism, which for me in that moment was having a glass of wine at 5:00 to take the edge off, because it felt very normal. It was just like, oh, I don't want to feel this, so I'm going to have a glass of wine to take the edge off. And it was never an alcohol addiction. And I want to be clear on that, because I think so many of us have these different numbing mechanisms and we're not aware of them, whether it's, watching hours upon hours of Netflix every single day, or scrolling on social media for 4 or 5 hours, or if it is alcohol or another substance, or being busy, whatever it is. There are all of these ways that we can escape from our heart and our soul and our mission and our purpose and all of the things that we're meant to enjoy in this life, because we don't know they're waiting on us. And for me in that moment, I had decided I'm going to have a glass of wine at 5:00 to take the edge off. And I did this every single day for a few months. And there was one day where I was sitting on the sofa and I was just staring at the clock, because I would usually sit down about 10-15 minutes before 5:00 and just stare at the clock and wait. It had just kind of become my ritual. And there was 4:59 and I'm staring at the clock, and it's 4:59, 4:59, 4:59. And I believe that there was divine intervention in my life in that day, because the clock never turned 5:00. It was literally about a 10-minute 4:59. And it was long enough for me to connect to something inside of me that I had not let myself hear. And all of a sudden, I heard this voice just like coming in so crystal clear from the center of my chest and in my body saying, girl, what are you doing? There's so much more to life than what you're currently experiencing. What are you doing? There's so much more. And in that moment, I fell to my knees and I looked up to the sky, and tears are streaming down my face. And I just said a prayer. I said, show me the way. I'm willing to get myself out of this. And in that moment and in that day, that was my quantum moment, because I saw something from a different perspective and from a different lens, and I became a different human being. And I connected to my inner guidance system. I connected to my wisdom in a way that I never had before. And instead of going to get a glass of wine, I went and grabbed my computer and I started Googling. I started learning everything I could, finding books, podcast retreats, mentors. There were some interesting things that had happened to me in years before, where people were planting seeds, a shamanic astrologer and a different energy healer that I had happened upon through luxury spa trips, because I love that kind of thing. And so I started putting all of these puzzle pieces together, and I led myself into a new conversation, and I led myself into a new space, and I led myself into alignment with my heart and my soul and my purpose and my mission. And nothing has been the same ever since. And I've today have created so many dreams that blow my mind. And the truth is, I'm just getting started still.
I feel like you told part of my story. I know exactly what you mean about the numbing agents. I know what you mean about that moment that time stands still. Only for me, it always happens the last minute of the dryer time. So I don't think it's divine intervention. I think it's just that I have a shitty dryer. But I love the way you specified that it wasn't an alcohol addiction, because about 460 days ago or something, I finally gave up alcohol because it was one of my numbing agents, and I never felt addicted to it per se. But it was a hard thing to kind of discern, because I don't know, like when I gave it up, I wasn't having these weird withdrawals or anything like that. And it changed so much over time that it almost made it more difficult for me to see that it was a numbing agent because, yes, I partied a lot for like a decade. And I mean, if you look at the amount I was drinking, that's alcoholism by anyone's standards. But even then, it was more like I just needed to escape. I needed to be busy. I couldn't be alone with my thoughts. And so I made so many different little steps of progress over time that when I was in my 30s, I'm like, well, I'm not drinking like I used to. I'm having a glass of wine at 5 o'clock, like, and so it was difficult to see it as negative, or as a problem, I should say. But the issue was that it was taking up so much thought before I would have it. It was distracting me from doing anything else after that. And so those were what I was seeing in the beginning. But as I've progressed through my growth, the real thing that it took away from me was my ability to feel those feelings, that internal guidance to know the next step. And so I totally relate to that. And I mean, even now, having given up alcohol, now I have to watch my social media. And what I notice though is when I am doing all the steps to stay aligned with my bigger purpose, those things don't even come up. But it's like when I feel like I'm like, oh, taking a break from it or making excuses, and not saying that we don't deserve to rest, but it's a different energy for me. When I'm stuck in self-doubt, when I'm pretending it's rest and instead it's a bunch of doubt, it's a bunch of basically not believing in myself. So giving more energy to those limiting beliefs than to the dreams that I want to fulfill. That's when I feel myself falling into all those things. And that's when more self-doubt comes in. And that's when I'm questioning everything and I'm wondering if this is what I should be doing. And there's so many excuses where it's hard to see what it is. Like, well, I just became a mom 2 years ago. So maybe it's that. Maybe this is my intuition telling me I need to do this other thing. And so just recently I had to sit down with myself and realign and actually go back. Like, what legacy do I want to leave? What did everything in my life lead to? Why did those things happen? And I had this very clear moment of realizing that I still want to be on the path I was before. It might look different as a mother. But once I committed to that, then I had to get really serious about my daily behaviors. And so I'm working through those things right now. But one of the things that you talked about that really helped you find that alignment was Hawkin's map of consciousness. What is that, and what did that open up for you? One of the things that you talked about that really helped you find that alignment was Hawkin's map of consciousness. What is that, and what did that open up for you?
Yes. So I know you're referencing this from my book, Quantum Vibes. And I just want to say that for anyone that's listening, that's like, where did that come from? Because when I was awakening, I wanted to understand how to be happy. I wanted to understand how to create freedom. I wanted to understand how to activate my power. And one of the things that taught me that was understanding energy. I believe energy is our most powerful superpower, and it's one of the most underutilized things in the human species. It's one of the most underutilized tools because we don't know how to operate our energy. And what you were just saying about going down the rabbit hole of letting the voice of doubt step in and understanding that you've got to shift and change. We all go through that, and we all go through that at every next level. And when it's really about the frequency that we choose to activate, and about understanding where to plug into, and understanding that we all have a unique soul blueprint. And what does that look like? And what you were saying is you feel the call to open your channel and therefore not have alcohol. Some people need to move their body more. Some people need to change what they're eating. Some people need to start meditating. And we all have got to figure out the different path for us. And so when you think about it, the Hawkin scale of frequency and vibration, what that did for me is it gave a little bit of tangibility to energy. And it shows that everything has a frequency. And just the same as we're tuned into a frequency right now to be looking at each other and having this conversation, the listeners are tuned into a frequency to hear the conversation and join in the room with us. When we turn on the TV or we turn on the radio, we plug into a dial. And I had the biggest aha when I realized that, oh my gosh, we can do that with our energy, with our thoughts, with our feelings. And so understanding that when you're feeling shame or grief or fear, it's a denser vibration than when you're feeling acceptance or willingness. And then when you're really in that like, woo, like things are getting exciting mode, and your heart is wide open and you're in that love and joy energy, you become magnetic. And I think there's a story in personal development that's not serving people, that has been around for a long time, that says we've got to stay in that love or above energy without feeling any of the other feelings or frequencies. And I disagree with that, because I believe we're on a human experience and the human journey. And sometimes we're going to feel sad. And sometimes there are some things we're going to need to grieve. And some days we're going to be triggered. And so when we can create the emotional intelligence around how can we be aware of these feelings and how can we hold a higher frequency at the same time of being able to hold some of these lower level vibrations, we create what I call a big energy. And in that, you're really able to start to utilize your energy where you can become magnetic and you can manifest things, and you can not be upset if you're up and down on that vibration scale, because you know that you're going to thrive and live in the higher vibrations, and it's okay to feel some of the denser vibrations.
Thank you for emphasizing that, because I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions with like the spiritual path is that we're just supposed to be happy all the time and kind of move through that. And that's really emotional bypassing. And that was one of the things that got me stuck in my downward spiral in the first place, was when I experienced a bunch of trauma and I thought that strength looked like just ignoring it and putting on a happy face. And so when I started going through growth, when I first learned the law of attraction, I had all the wrong ideas about it. And so I just kind of continued to do that for a little bit. And then I got to a point of really understanding things more and having to process those feelings, because I don't think that they're fully processed unless they're felt. And so that doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden attracting all this negative stuff. That means that you are in the human experience and this is how you're learning. I think the problem is when we get stuck in it and we feed the story of our victimhood or of why we should be here, or whatever that story is that keeps us in that place, rather than just allowing the emotions to move through us.
Yes, exactly. I made a post on Instagram yesterday or the day before exactly about this, like a magic bullet to manifesting. And what that means is stepping into the path of the empowered creator versus going down the rabbit hole of victimhood. And I think that is somewhere that we get stuck. You know, if you're complaining, if you're saying, why me, if you're blaming, then your energy is not plugged into the right place. And so when we can begin to take radical self-responsibility and look at the tools and look at what is our part, then we can shift the dynamic of the law of attraction and manifesting and our energy at the same time.
So you have these 7 really powerful tools to help us step into this, the quantum tools that you call them. And I want to go through them. The first one is about turning up your vibrational frequency. So given what we were just talking about, where it's okay to feel those lower vibrational feelings, how do we know when and how to turn up the vibrational frequency while still allowing those denser vibes?
So I talk about this, and it's so funny because when I'm having a conversation about the 7 tools, in my mind, they all go together. And so, like, you're asking me this, and I'm already wanting to go to the lever above tool, because that's the answer to your question. So I'm going to answer it twofold. One, turning up your frequency means knowing there's always a next level. As long as we're breathing, we're growing. And so sometimes we hit glass ceilings, and sometimes we come to a space and place where we think we're good because we think we've done a certain thing, and there's always a next level. To get to the next level, you've got to understand how to alchemize the feelings that you're feeling that aren't at the top of the vibration scale. So meaning you get triggered, or meaning you have the voice of doubt comes in, or meaning you have the thought of, who am I? I don't deserve this. And you're really feeling out of alignment. What you need to do is you need to really understand that the power of your alchemy with your energy is in your heart. It's giving the keys to the ignition, to the road of your life, to your heart, to your higher self, to the divinity that lives in your heart. And when you can surrender to that space inside of you, you create space for all the denser feelings. And that in itself turns up your vibrational frequency.
I love that. I remember learning that the spectrum of our emotions will basically spread it out on either way. So those really low moments that you feel, allow for those higher, those super high moments, which is why I personally hated depression medication. I know some people have a different experience, but for me, I felt like it just kept me right in the middle. So I was never feeling really low, but I was never feeling really high. And then actually after a couple months, I still felt really low anyways. But that's a different story. But yeah, so allowing ourselves the spectrum of our emotions, and I think what helps me is not giving so much meaning to it, not identifying with it, not seeing my life in a different way because I'm feeling these things. And so
yes. And also activating your own wisdom and your excitement. So many people live life where they're like just accepting. They're about 20-30% going, they're nowhere near the all-in energy. And it's like, we have to lead ourselves into all-in energy. We have to begin to get excited about it. We've got to plug into possibility. And so turning up your vibrational frequency is also about thinking about what makes you excited. Think about what you're doing. Are you just going through the motions of life, or are you really being intentional about what you desire to create? Are you thinking about what lights your soul up? Are you taking action in that direction, or are you just dipping your toe in to be like, ooh, that would be interesting, or that sounds good, but I don't know what so-and-so would think if I did that? Too many of us are living in this programming that's not serving us. And so turning up your vibrational frequency means so many different things depending where you are on your journey and what beliefs that you're carrying in the moment.
So true. And one of the things that helped me in the beginning when I wasn't used to doing that was leaning into the accidental high vibes. Like I had to do that in the beginning to remind myself what it felt like. And there'd be moments where I would be with my friends. It actually just happened yesterday. I got together had a little baby sprinkle for my upcoming baby, and I was just surrounded by my best friends, like my people. And I was just sitting there feeling so blessed. And so many people just kind of moved through that moment. And I sat in it. I actually can feel it right now, just talking about it. Like feeling into my heart space, feeling into that vibration, and it amplifies it. And so I know that even just in the moment of it coming and it giving me a little hint of it, I can lean in and think to myself, I am so grateful. I'm so happy right now. Like, oh my gosh. And then it just overwhelms me. It happens when I spend time with my baby. And so then moving into consciously choosing those things and realizing, okay, well, yeah, there's a lot about my life that I want to change. When was the last time I felt that really high vibrational feeling? Can I do something that steps into that? And then when you do, then like almost tracking your wins with it, being like, I did this, I moved into this, and I created this feeling, and how good does it feel? Because it's that intentional focus that will keep me coming back to it again and again.
Totally agree. And I love that.
You talk a lot about the quantum field, and that kind of brings us to the next tool, which, like you said, they're not chronological, but what is the quantum field for those people that don't understand?
So to me, the quantum field is an infinite field, invisible field of possibility. It's an energetic dimension that exists with every potential you could possibly imagine. And so this is the field of dreams. This is the field of anything that could possibly happen when you can become an energetic match. And so I believe that the quantum field is everything that you desire, and the quantum field could also consist of everything you don't want. However, what seems more spectacular and miraculous is really thinking of it as a place that you can go to plug your energy into dreams and pull that frequency into your body. Let me give you an example. So in the book, Quantum Vibes, I share a story. When I was a little girl, I used to have these visualizations, and it was like I would imagine myself in a button house. And if you've ever seen, do you remember the Jetsons, the cartoon, the Jetsons?
Yes,
it's like
I'm old enough.
Yeah, it's like boop, everything, like they would something would pop out of the wall when they would say it. And so I feel like I even had this visualization before seeing the Jetsons, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, that was kind of like what was in my vision. So it's like, if you just well, why don't we do a quick little mini visualization? If you just close your eyes and you imagine yourself somewhere beautiful, and you let your heart and your soul show you this beautiful, beautiful home. And it's like, as you begin to walk up to the door is just opened for you. And you walk in, and there's no limit to this home. It looks beautiful. It feels amazing. And all over the walls and all over the ceiling and everywhere, because it's kind of a continuous home. It keeps going. There's these buttons, and they're different shapes, different sizes. And if you plug plug into one, it's like a dream comes out. Maybe $1 million, maybe the romantic partner of your dreams. Maybe, if you desire to speak on a stage, it's like you're all of a sudden standing on the TEDx stage, and you just have this place that has such easy and simple access to your dreams. And then just kind of taking that energy and putting it in your heart, and then slowly blinking your eyes open to the room. I like to kind of put people in that space and place to visualize the quantum field. And so it's cool to think about there's this unseen field, but it exists energetically. It exists in a different dimension, but we bring it into this reality. And so inside of the book, I give different tools and nuances to the quantum field, how to activate it in your present moment, and how to really learn to play in it. Because what happens is most times we allow our logical mind to affect our decisions. And in the quantum field, there is no logic and there is no mind. In fact, there is no meaning. We give, as human beings, we give everything meaning. And what I've seen in the work that I've done with clients and in the work in my own life is that my logical mind will try to talk me out of my dreams every single time if I let it. And so we're in this constant dance of overriding our logical mind. And how do we do that? We begin to let ourselves play in a field of dreams. We begin to understand that the desires in our heart were placed there by God, the divine, the universe. And it's something that is so magnificent and ready for us when we can come into alignment with it. And to come into alignment with it, we've got to know that it's there, and we've got to understand we're worthy to receive it.
I really liked that visualization. It was like a fun one that I felt like I could really step into. Mm-hmm. Plus, it makes you think. It makes you think, well, what do I want to be behind this next door? Mm-hmm. What do I want to exist in this home for me? And I have been practicing when I meditate, because I have a pretty consistent meditation practice. But what I've recently added again that I used to do, but for some reason fell off the wagon, was when the meditation ends, I'll sit there for another 5 minutes, and that'll be my visualization time, because I feel like my mind is just perfectly primed for that. It's finally clear. It's finally free of the stresses. And then instead of just going about my day thinking, what do I need to do next, and moving into an old energy, I sit there and I amplify it with those good feelings and the visualizations, because I do believe that that's probably the most, either maybe that or right before bed might be the most powerful time to visualize.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's a very powerful time. Yes.
So you actually had somebody ask you a question that reminded me of the visualization that said, what would you do if you had no limits? And for some people first approaching that question, they might be like, well, what do you mean? Maybe I don't have limits. Why was that question so meaningful? And what are some examples of things that come to mind that help people break beyond whatever limits they're holding?
Yes. So this is one of the most powerful questions I believe we can ask ourselves. And so it was, for me, it was around that 2013 quantum moment when this happened. And it was one of my mentors who asked me the question. And she said, Suzanne, what would you be doing if you had zero limits? And my whole body went tense and I got annoyed. And I was like, why would she be asking me that? Of course I had limits. And then it was like, again, that inner guidance system and that inner wisdom turned on, and all of a sudden it hit me. And I was like, oh my gosh, the only limitations I have are the ones I'm putting on myself. And this is true for anyone, because we all have the power to walk ourselves in a new direction. We all have the power to upgrade our mindset, to upgrade our belief system, and to begin to plug into possibility. It's, again, the logical mind that has told us we can't. It's limiting beliefs, stories, programming, societal conditioning, whatever you want to call it, that's told us we can't. And so we all have the same energetic blueprint. We all have the same capacity to do this. It's what we make of it. And so that question, it was like it unlocked something in my mind and my body. And so I play around with this. And especially for people wanting to find their purpose or their next level of purpose, because I also believe as long as we're breathing, we're growing, and there's always a new level. It's like, sit down with that question and play with it. What would you be doing if you had no limits? What would you be doing if money was no object? And start to let your soul show you some of your genius that maybe you haven't become aware of yet.
One of the ways that you talk about connecting to that quantum field is by opening our hearts and our minds. And it's funny because over the last decade, I've worked with different healers, and things will come up about having a heart wall or blockages in the heart. I remember having a really profound experience in breath work that I could almost feel my heart opening. And it kind of reminds me of your next tool about aligning with love and just practicing feeling more happiness and worthiness. So how do we open our hearts and consciously practice feeling more happiness, or worthiness especially is even more difficult if you're not used to feeling worthy?
Correct. So I could talk about that answer for 5 hours is the truth. And, this isn't a one and done type of thing. And it's like I created Quantum Vibes as a guidebook and a toolbook for manifesting, for coming into your heart and your power and having tangible bite-sized pieces of information. But the truth is that's just the first step, and that's just the beginning. The next step is continuing the conversation. What is it that you need to do? Do you need to get in rooms with people at retreats? Do you need to hire a mentor? Do you need to shift your community? Do you need to get in nature more? And so becoming in alignment with love or above is a few things. And it's the most powerful piece about that tool is what I was speaking about earlier, which is really giving the keys to the ignition to the wisdom in your heart. Because I say this quote over and over is the wisdom in your heart is far more powerful than the logic in your mind. However, most of us operate from logic 90 to 95% of the time. And then also just really understanding that you have that love frequency available to you. And so maybe you do need to do a little bit of inner work, and maybe you do need to do some healing. And there's exercises inside of the book and the workbook portion of Quantum Vibes. But the main thing I want to say is activating that worthiness of if you think you're pregnant, so this is perfect. It's like you think of when a baby comes out of the womb and you're holding the baby. If you've ever, to everyone listening, if you've ever had a baby or you've had a niece or a nephew, or you even just seen an infant in the first week of life, it's like pure bliss. It's that they just seem like source, God, love, energy in human form. And it's like we all have that worthiness when we come out of the womb, and somewhere along the way we lose it. So it's about remembering that you still have that, activating that, and then understanding the energetics of what is that love frequency? Where are you letting it in? Are you loving yourself? Are you loving the other people in relationships from an unconditional standpoint? And there's so many different nuances to this, but I think the main one is really understanding that there's so much richness in life when you can surrender to the piece of this love that lives in your heart.
You included a quote from Hawkins that I had to write down. I'm like, I'm going to make this my iPhone wallpaper right now because it's so good. But it's love is misunderstood to be an emotion. Actually, it's a state of awareness, a way of being in the world, a way of seeing oneself and others. And I think that's so important to remember because people think that this feeling of love is supposed to just come to them, but it's actually a choice. And even in romantic relationships, I mean, that's one of the things you end up learning in marriage. You have to choose that every single day. But to realize that it's not even just within those love relationships, those really all your relationships can be love relationships. Your relationship with yourself, with the world can be a love relationship, but you have to choose that. You have to go out and realize, well, am I being Debbie Downer all day long? Like, did I just snap at the guy at the post office? Or do I want to be a different way? Because it reminds me of another quote that you added with Joe Dispenza that talks about the quantum field doesn't respond to what we want. It responds to who we're being. So we have to choose to be that love so that we move through the world and we magnetize more of the things that align directly with the energy that we're carrying.
Exactly. I love that, both of those quotes, and just remembering it is a state of being. And I think so many times, this is the conversations we should be having in elementary and middle and high school that we're not having. It's like we think that love means these one things. And yes, can there be ecstasy in romantic relationships? Absolutely. Can there be ecstasy in love and learning to come home to that worthiness in yourself? Yes. Can you have experiences where you're like, and you're feeling it? Absolutely. And the more that you can begin to intentionally create that, the more you just become that frequency. And when you become it, you are it, you attract it, and everything just gets better and better and better and better.
So for some people, that becoming the love feels impossible because their habits of thought are so ingrained to just go to the negative, to see what they don't like about their life. And so, yes, they might feel successful in changing it for a moment, but then they're right back to where they started and they lose hope. And that brings me to your next tool about reprogramming and rewiring your mind. And you talk about how the subconscious is in the driver's seat 85 to 90% of the time, which thank you for reminding me, because when I first read that stat, I was blown away. I'm like, really? Like, I've got like 10% here, only 10% to work with. And so talk about what it looks like to reprogram and rewire your mind, especially when you're so used to being in a certain vibration.
So this is one of the most powerful things that any of us can do, because our subconscious mind takes on the stories that we've been told. So as a child, we don't have control over what we've been told. We don't have a say in the thoughts we start thinking, because they're very well-meaning adults telling us things like be realistic, or shut up and sit down, or you don't get to have a say in that, or whatever it is. But there's no, again, very well-meaning adults. And so we pick up these programs along the way that aren't true. And in order to reprogram and rewire our subconscious and our conscious mind, we have to understand how to operate the vehicle. I talk about this a lot. So most people in personal development, they read one book, they go on one retreat, they barely do anything, and then they say it's not working. But the truth of the matter is, it's just like everything else. You've got to make a lifestyle around it. You need to become a place. If you're having negative thoughts constantly, the first thing you do is become aware of it. The second thing you do is you say, I'm going to immerse myself in the personal development conversation. I'm going to read every book that inspires me, that looks exciting to me. It doesn't mean you have to like make it like a chore. It means what feels exciting. You begin to have more and more conversations like this one. You understand that when you can reprogram and rewire your mind, and you understand all the nuances. And again, I break this down in very tangible, bite-sized pieces inside of the book. But what would happen if your subconscious mind was programmed to ride alongside with your soul and your dreams? And it's like the autopilot version of you is just busy, like attracting all these amazing things. And so you don't even have to think about it, because honestly, I think that that's where I am in life, is that I've been doing this, the reprogramming, the rewiring so long that subconscious, are there still things I'm not aware of course, but is the bulk of it programmed on track with my heart and my soul and my mission? Yes. And that's when life starts to get really juicy and magnetic. But where most people go wrong is they say, well, Suzanne, I meditated for 3 months and nothing's happening. Well, Suzanne, I went on that one retreat, or I did that one program, or I read those 2 books. And it's not like that. It's a lifestyle. It's just the same as you're not going to, if you want to feel good in your body, you're going to create exercise and healthy eating that nourishes your body. And maybe it's like the 80-20 rule. You do it 80% of the time good, and 20% you cheat, or 70-30, or whatever it is. But you find your unique soul blueprint. With rewiring your mind, people are busy listening to media, watching news, doing all of these things that have nothing to do with consciously reprogramming their mind. And so it's like, you've got to decide that this matters to you, and create the decision to get in rooms with people, inspire you, have conversations, and understand the way your mind works, and understand how you can reprogram it.
Talk about the brainwaves for a second, because that just fascinates me. And I know that you say that theta is the ticket to those quantum moments that we were talking about to become a super attractor. So break that down for us.
Okay, so there's 5 different brainwaves, but the only one I really want to focus on today is theta. And the reason why theta is so exciting is when you get in the theta state, you can access your subconscious mind, meaning you can influence it. So theta is that space and time where, if you've ever, gardening is what's coming to my mind. Like, let's say someone loves to garden, and you're in the garden and you lose track of time. Or if you're cooking and you're doing something and you're just so, you're unaware of everything else because you're so focused on what you're doing, you go into those theta brainwaves. Meditation will take you there. It's that state you're in at night right before you go to sleep. And it's that state you're in the morning where you're not fully awake or aware, but your eyes are open, and you're in that theta brain state. And what that means is the door to the subconscious mind is wide open. And so what I'll do oftentimes is I have a sleep meditation that I created that I'll put on right before bed. And that's like really opening the door into reprogramming my subconscious mind, because I'm in those theta waves. And then I have that 20-minute meditation that's aligning just through words and just through sounds with my heart and my soul. In the morning, the first thing I do, I don't pick up my phone. Most of us, I used to, probably a decade ago, first thing I would do was swipe my phone and look at emails or look at whatever it is that we need to do. That's the door to your subconscious mind. Don't waste it. It's like you wake up and you have that moment. What if you could drop right into a visualization? What if you could begin to set a powerful intention? What if you got out your journal and really started connecting with your heart and your soul in a new way? What if you dropped right into a different meditation? So it's like utilizing those times where your body's automatically in the theta state will create magic.
So that's why that moment, the 5 minutes right after my meditation, it really is that powerful. And also right before I go to bed, what I think I'm going to add is when I'm still laying in bed, my first activity when I get out of bed is to go meditate, because it's just the easiest thing to do. I'm like, well, it's basically like almost asleep sitting up.
Yes, exactly.
But there's still usually that 5 minutes that I'm laying in bed, just feeling how comfortable the bed is. I'm going to start visualizing during that time, because I know that it's just most receptive. And what if I'm not consciously deciding what I'm going to put into my brain right there, what ends up happening in that 5 minutes is, you should get up. No, you don't need to get up quite yet. I'm already like beating myself up kind of. And then it's like, okay, finally get up. And so I'm wasting that time anyways, just kind of instilling self-doubt. So might as well be like, okay, yeah, you're going to lay here for 5 minutes. You're always going to lay here for 5 minutes. So you don't need to make the choice every day. You don't need to negotiate with yourself. And play with your mind, play with your imagination, play with your dreams.
Love it. That's such a powerful tool and idea. Yes, for sure.
And that actually brings me to the next one, because right there is sort of an example of repurposing energy. I'm going to use it in this possibly negative way, so might as well turn it into something more positive. But what especially interests me about this is how you talk about turning your triggers into a powerful way to manifest new possibilities. And I do feel like people are more triggered than they've ever been in my whole life. Like, it's like people are glorifying triggers and being offended, and I'm not down with it. So what does it look like to turn those triggers into a way to open up possibilities?
So when we're triggered, there's something inside of us that needs to be healed, needs to be seen, needs to be looked at. And so what oftentimes we do is we're triggered and we just start reacting, which is what you're talking about. You see on the internet, it's like, like doing all of this very low, dense vibration frequency things. And that's what most people do. They're mad, they react, they're angry. What I love to do is like, all right, you get triggered and you take a beat. And first of all, you say, what is the issue inside of me that it needs to be looked at and healed? So this trigger isn't here. That's a little bit of a different conversation. But from the repurposing the energy, you feel that momentum in your body, and you look at things and you take radical responsibility for whatever you're being triggered for. And then you say, how can I take this momentum that I'm feeling in my body? I've just created energy, and what do I want to do with it? And there's so many ways that you get what I believe sometimes if we can plug in, it's like you take yourself into the quantum field from this space of like, all right, that didn't happen. This is making me angry. I want to create something epic. Let me just drop into my heart as best I can, use this momentum and go plug into something I desire. And sometimes from that, like, really triggered and annoyed state, it's the anger, the frequency of anger moves. And so it's almost like you can see ideas that you couldn't, or things are inspired that weren't before. And it's like sometimes you've accepted less than over and over and over again, and you get mad enough that it puts you into action to create things. You know, the perfect example of a repurposing in my life in the story that I just told was I was using that energy to quote unquote take the edge off. And in that moment, my heart came in and said no more. And so there was still so much movement in my body, and there was still this craving to be seen, and there was still this craving. But instead of numbing out and not feeling, I used that momentum to figure out what was happening inside of my body, which put me on the path of alignment and awakening and doing everything that I'm doing that lights my soul on fire today.
That's so powerful. And it reminds me of almost a different way of reframing. One of the things that I learned was that I, at one point, felt like options were closed off to me. I had reached a rock bottom. Things were taken away that I couldn't get back. And I was so focused on what I had lost. And when I shifted it to looking at like, okay, well, instead of looking at these limitations as blockages or even limitations in general, can I see them as guideposts that are just steering me exactly towards what is meant for me? Like this door's closed now. So go through the other one instead of continuously knocking when there's not even a doorknob anymore. So
100%, yes.
Yeah, it was really, really helpful. But the next step is activating that vision in the now. And you talk about how to dive into the quantum field to positively alter the present moment. Go deeper on that.
What happens is so many times we're busy focusing on what is instead of where we desire to go. And I've been having this conversation a lot lately around frequency first. And when we can create the frequency of what we desire first, we activate the quantum field in the now, because we're not seeing the evidence around us yet, but we're able to feel it and we're able to bring it in and we're able to really, really hold the frequency of what we desire. So for example, when I was wanting to launch my business and launch my career and write my book, I felt crazy because I had zero literary background. And this was the first book that I wrote back in 2015. And like, I didn't even tell anyone what I was doing. But what I did was I began to do this without even becoming aware of it. I didn't need everyone's support around me yet. What I needed to do was to plug into the strong intuitive feelings and the visions that I had telling me I was going to write my story in a unique way. And I began to hold that frequency. And then I put myself in action. And it didn't matter what was happening. I got the people and the mentors needed to help me create the book. And then when I launched my first book, 3 months out of the gates, I got a phone call from Hay House inviting me to be on a speakers panel next to Deepak Chopra, Gabby Bernstein, and like 30 other New York Times bestselling authors and me. And that was one of the most powerful moments in my life because I did pull that right out of the quantum field. And in that moment, I was maybe not the most qualified person to get that opportunity, but I got it. I got it because I was shown a vision. I plugged into the frequency of it. I didn't need the evidence yet. I moved and I went and boom, it came. And so I have so many examples like that in my life and in my clients' lives of really putting the frequency of what you desire above and beyond the frequency of what is.
That is something that we don't even hear very often because we're so, like in the spirituality world, we talk about, connect to the present moment so much. And yes, that's powerful and it's important. And the frequency first is such a good reminder that sometimes the present moment isn't all you want it to be, but that doesn't mean that you then have to stew in that energy. That can be your trigger to create in that moment. Like, yeah, I'm right here in the present moment. I don't know if I like it. So can I create something else? Can I use this time to shift, to dream so that the next time I'm in the present moment, it feels a little bit better?
You're bringing the dream into the present moment by the way that you feel. And so it's about becoming a master level of monitoring your own frequency. Whereas you can see chaos in front of you, but you're not plugged into it. You're plugged into the quantum field of where you want to go, regardless of what's happening in front of you. So you are in the present moment, but you're in the present moment of a different timeline, of a different frequency, of a different way of being, while looking at whatever's happening around you and not giving it your energy.
That's one thing I'm reminded of when I speak to spiritual channelers, and wouldn't have been something that I'm not sure if I would have found it on my own, but yeah, there are layers to the present moment and you can choose. And one of my favorite channelers, Paul Selig, he'll read people and sometimes people ask him questions and he goes to them and kind of interacts or takes on their personality and will say it. And it's like, well, let me go to a higher version of you. And then all of a sudden he gets access to different information that maybe that person doesn't believe they have access to. So we have that power too, to then decide, okay, this is the realm I'm in right now, but can I access a different layer of this present moment to access the higher frequency, see what possibilities are there, which brings me to your final tool, which I'm sure you have way more tools to teach, but the final one in the book that is about following the flow of synchronicity and divine guidance and really ceasing resisting the natural flow of the universe, which I think is where a lot of people are living their lives in that state of resistance. So what does that look like?
That looks like opening your eyes to the signs and synchronicities around you. So many times things happen and people say, oh, it's a coincidence, or, oh, that we're very unaware. And so in the book, I talk about this story of, I had a vision in 2019. I was in Laguna Beach, California for a few business meetings. And I had this moment where I walked out of the coffee shop and I looked across the ocean, and it was just this beautiful, like sapphire blue. And I could feel the ocean breeze coming on my skin. And the sun was just felt so warm and inviting in my body. And then like this intuitive knowing came in, and it was like, you're supposed to live here. And I was like, I wasn't even looking to move. In fact, I had just a couple of years prior done this beautiful renovation to my home in Atlanta on an acre of land. Like everything I'd ever known had been in Georgia. But at the same time, when I felt that vision, I was like, oh my gosh, how exciting. And so over the next few months, I was in this tug of war with my mind and my heart, because my mind was like, no, what do you think you're doing? And my heart was like, go, like girl, life is waiting. And so this is very different. We're 2019. I'm well into my career. I'm well, into my journey. And I remember praying for a sign, and I was praying for a sign, and I felt like nothing was coming. And I won't tell the whole pieces of the book, of the story, because I don't want to ruin it for those that are reading the book. But basically, there was a woodpecker that was coming to give me a message, and it was very disruptive. I had this whole speaking event, and there was this woodpecker coming, and it was driving me crazy. And this went on for a few days, and I ended up, the woodpecker, if you look up the spiritual symbolism for woodpecker, and again, I have the exact thing it says in the book, but it's basically like all doors are open for big opportunity. It's time for you to follow the nudges and like all of these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, it took a woodpecker nearly tearing down my cedar deck for me to get the sign. And here I am, a pretty aware, conscious person, and it's still like, it had to beat me over the head. And so I give a few other examples in quantum vibes as well. But every single day we're being guided. Every single day there's signs being given to us, and we don't see them. And so when you can start to dance and play with the flow and connect to your heart and let your heart guide you, magic is on the horizon every single time.
I had an experience of seeing one of those signs in hindsight, which was so weird because usually for me, it's like, okay, there's the sign, and then it moves me to take action. But instead, in this situation, it was still my biggest rock bottom moment. And it's the one that I've had to consciously reprogram how I think about it, because for a long time, I'm like, this thing nearly ruined my life. This person nearly ruined my life. Why did I waste so much time? Started using limitations as guideposts. It really did. I mean, I wouldn't be who I am, have what I do, speak on what I speak about today if it wasn't for that person. But, every now and then I can end up getting sucked into like this self-pity thing of like, God, what would have happened if I would have figured this out 10 years before instead of wasting all that time in my shame spiral or whatever. And then I had this memory. He's the one who gave me the book, The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. And it was the breadcrumb that ended up helping me work out of that rock bottom. And I hadn't thought about that in so long, but somebody brought that up at a time that I needed it most, where I was just kind of having one of my moments. And I'm like, yeah, actually the person who gave that to me. And I all of a sudden had like this intuitive download that like him giving me that book was my sign from the universe that was meant for me, that there could have been no other way for me to get here. So to just accept it, stop reverting and going back to those moments of self-pity and just keep moving forward. And it happened at such a moment that I needed to kind of break through a rut that I was sitting in for a little bit. And then I just did. And all of a sudden I was like a powerhouse getting done with goals. So thank you so much for bringing all of these tools. And I mean, I am sure listeners can feel your energy, but I can feel your energy in that you carry, and it is infectious. And so I hope people are as motivated to start working these tools as I am. And so for listeners that are interested in learning more about you, your work, and your book, where's the best place for them to connect?
Come to Instagram and my website. So Instagram, I'm always there. The highlight bubbles have everything that I have going on. I love for people to say hello to me on Instagram as well. Also, I have free gifts for anyone that buys my book, Quantum Vibes or Girl Awaken. You can find both of those at SuzanneAdamsInc.com too. It should be on the banners right there. And I'm on Facebook as well, but Instagram and my website are definitely the best places. And my handle on Instagram is at Suzanne Adams Inc. SUZANNEADAMSINC.
All the links for this episode are at mindlove.com/291. Your challenge for this week is to pick one tool and focus on it. But if I have a recommendation, this is what it'll be. First, become very aware of your thoughts. Your thoughts are basically a blueprint to what you are manifesting in your life. And whether or not that you believe that manifesting is actually possible, think of it this way. Two people can experience the exact same event and have completely different experiences based on what they're focusing on. You can be looking at everything that's going wrong with the day, with the event, with the people that you're around, or you can choose to focus on the good, what you love about them, what you're grateful for. Your focus will be your experience. So even if your mind only lets you go that far, that's a really powerful realization. My life experience has led me to go a level deeper. I have found that opportunities, people, other energies meet me where mine is. When I focus on gratitude, the universe rewards me. What I visualize or what I replay in my mind over and over again is more likely to happen. So become very aware of what thoughts are spiraling in your mind. What are you naturally visualizing? Is it worry or is it the best possible outcome? When you start to audit what your thoughts are, then you can consciously change them to something more positive. So let me know how it goes. Reach out to me on Instagram at MindLoveMelissa. The teaser clip for this episode talked about something really important, how we often give up or say something is not working before we actually make a lifestyle out of it. We don't give it a fair amount of our energy before we decide that it doesn't work for us. Well, that's why I created the Mind Love membership. It's to help us actually implement all of the things that we learn on this podcast. I've done a lot of surveys reaching out to you guys, asking what you could use help with. And so often people say that they have learned so much on the show, but they don't have time to implement it, or it seems too overwhelming to implement. What I've learned is that even though it seems like we're learning 1,000 different tools in every episode, it all comes down to some simple basics. And those are the ones that we need to master. And that's why I created the Mind Love membership. Every month, you're offered a new masterclass to help you actually implement some of these tools so that every month you're becoming a better version of yourself rather than just hearing how you can do it and letting it float by. So these masterclasses have printable workbooks, videos, an immersive conversation, so it's a way to actually get your hands in the material. Find out more at mindlove.com/membership. But basically, every month you are getting hundreds of dollars worth of courses for a fraction of that price. Just one masterclass is worth more than an entire year's membership. So find out more at mindlove.com/membership. You can find all of my sponsors at mindlove.com/sponsors. And that's all for today. So thanks for giving your mind a little love today, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning into Your Higher Frequency with Mind Love. Head to mindlove.com for a free gift to keep your vibes up until next week.
Wherever you go, whatever they get into, from chill time to everyday adventures, protect your dog from parasites with Credelio Quattro. For full safety information, side effects, and warnings, visit CredeliaQuattroLabel.com. Consult your vet or call 1-888-545-5973. Ask your vet for Credelio Quattro and visit QuattroDog.com.